They're tiny, tireless, and terrifying. Beneath our feet, armies of miniature assassins wage silent wars that shape entire ecosystems. Some strike with lightning speed, others with venom so potent it can drop predators like rodents and humans in a blink of an eye. They hunt, defend, and adapt with a precision that puts human warfare to shame. These aren't just ants. They're nature's deadliest engineers. Join us as we reveal the deadliest ants on Earth. Number 7. The bulldog ant, nature's berserker. Of course it's from Australia. Where else would the world's most dangerous ant come from? A country where everything wants to sting, bite, or poison you. From spiders the size of your hand to snakes that look like living nightmares. But none command as much fear or respect as this one, the bulldog ant, known to scientists as Myrmecia piriformis. While a single praying mantis is a formidable predator, a bulldog ant colony will quickly overwhelm and kill it through sheer numbers, as this isn't your average garden ant. This is nature's berserker, an insect that attacks with the fury of something 10 times its size. Found along the coastal regions of Australia, the bulldog ant has a reputation that borders on myth. It's earned it. In recorded history, at least 3 people have died from its sting, the most recent being a farmer in Victoria in 1988. That might not sound like much, but when you realize this thing is barely 2 centimeters long, it's chilling. When the bulldog ant attacks, it doesn't just sting, it bites and stings at the same time. It latches onto its victim with its massive toothed mandibles, then curls its abdomen beneath its body and drives a long, barbless stinger deep into the skin. Up close, the bulldog ant looks like it's been designed by a horror artist. It can grow up to 40 millimeters long, about the size of your thumb's first joint, with huge eyes, fiery red markings, and slender blade-like mandibles that could cut through the exoskeleton of most insects. Those large compound eyes give it superb vision. It can track movement from over a meter away, meaning, yes, it sees you coming before you see it, and it will come for you. Some are called jumper ants because when provoked, they literally spring toward their enemies, including humans. In short, aggressive leaps. Despite their ferocity, bulldog ants are not mindless killers. They are surprisingly sophisticated hunters and foragers. They feed on nectar and plant sap, yes, but they're also active predators, dragging insect prey back to their underground nests to feed the colony. And speaking of nests, these are underground fortresses, often with narrow, almost invisible entrances that open into tunnels running several meters deep. Once you get too close, it's like triggering an alarm. Within seconds, soldiers pour out in disciplined waves, ready to defend their queen. They don't just defend, they pursue. Researchers have watched bulldog ants chase intruders several meters from the nest, tracking movement with eerie precision. Usually, that sight alone is enough to make even the bravest human back off fast. But if you don't, if you stand your ground, you're in trouble. They'll bite down with those mandibles, curl their abdomen forward, and sting repeatedly until you're retreating in pain. The bulldog ant's venom is a biochemical cocktail of proteins, histamines, and neurotoxic compounds. It's designed not just to immobilize prey, but to hurt badly. For most people, the sting causes intense, burning pain, swelling, and sometimes temporary paralysis. But for those allergic or unlucky, cardiac arrest is possible. Unlike bees, bull ants don't die after they sting. Their stinger has no barb, so they can pull it out and sting again and again and again. Entomologists describe their venom as disproportionately potent. Why? Because their usual enemies are hairy mammals, like small marsupials, dogs, and occasionally humans. To pierce through fur or thick skin, evolution gave them the ability to sting through layers, even clothing. So, if you're gardening in Australia and you feel a sudden sharp pain under your shirt, chances are it's not a thorn, it's something far worse. Now here's the twist. Most of the time, these ants are actually chill. Despite their fearsome reputation, bulldog ants don't go looking for fights. They'll leave you alone, as long as you don't threaten their nest or block their path. But disturb the colony, and it's a different story. Their aggression is precise, almost calculated, a result of millions of years of surviving in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Scientists are fascinated by the bulldog ant for more than just its aggression. Its venom is now being studied in medical research for understanding pain receptors and developing new painkillers. Its social structure, sensory vision, and hunting precision are teaching biologists about the limits of insect intelligence. There's even footage that left researchers speechless. A single bulldog ant, overpowering a huntsman spider twice its size, methodically injecting venom and dragging the twitching body away into its nest. But what happens when deadliness isn't about venom, but about overwhelming force and machine-like thinking? Number 6. Driver ants, the swarm that eats everything. If the bulldog ant is nature's berserker, then the driver ant is its army general, ruthless, organized, and devastatingly efficient. Found across Central and East Africa, these ants don't just hunt. They consume entire ecosystems, leaving behind what scientists call ecological reset zones. When they march, even snakes and birds flee, because when the driver ants move, nothing stays still long enough to survive. Picture this: a living, moving carpet, millions strong, rippling through the jungle floor. It's not water, it's 20 million ants, each no bigger than a fingernail, flowing together like a dark tide of death. They move with eerie coordination, no central command, no chaos. Yet somehow, each ant knows exactly what to do. Their cooperative intelligence rivals supercomputers, forming what researchers call a swarm algorithm. They sense movement, heat, and even carbon dioxide. Anything that breathes is tagged as potential prey. A lizard that doesn't move fast enough? Gone. A grounded bird? Stripped to the bone in minutes. Even snakes have been found skeletonized after a raid. The driver ant, also known as tireless, isn't built like your average ant. Soldiers can grow over 2 centimeters long, equipped with scissor-like mandibles that can cut through skin, fur, and even light fabric. Workers, the smaller, more agile members, handle foraging, carrying larvae, and building structures out of their own bodies. They interlock legs and jaws to form a bivouac, a living fortress housing the queen and her brood. Inside this pulsating structure, the temperature and humidity are regulated naturally by the constant motion of workers. When the colony is ready to move, they simply disassemble the bivouac and march onward. Imagine an entire city picking itself up and walking away. That's the level of coordination we're talking about. Their raids begin like clockwork. At dawn, the colony spreads out in a fan-shaped formation. Scouts in front, soldiers on the edges, workers in the center. The ants fan out silently through the undergrowth, sweeping everything in their path. Each ant follows pheromone trails, invisible chemical signals that guide movement and trigger attack. The moment one worker bites down on prey, it releases a pheromone that calls the others. Within seconds, hundreds pile on, shredding flesh and carrying pieces back toward the center of the raid. Driver ant colonies can number up to 20 million individuals, and they're almost always on the move. Their queens, the largest ants in the world, stretching up to 5 centimeters, lay thousands of eggs daily. When resources around one bivouac run low, scouts find a new location, and the whole army relocates overnight. This nomadic lifestyle gives them their other nickname, wanderers of the jungle. But make no mistake, they don't wander aimlessly. Every march is part of a highly coordinated life cycle. There's the statutory phase, when they stay put to raise new larvae, and the nomadic phase, when the colony devours everything in its path to feed those hungry mouths. In rural Africa, the sight of a moving swarm sparks panic. Villagers often evacuate entire homes when a driver ant column approaches. Windows are shut, food lifted off the ground, and fires are sometimes lit around huts to create a heat barrier. Local tribes, however, also respect these creatures. After a swarm passes, the forest thrives again. Pests are gone, diseased animals are removed, and nutrients from carcasses enrich the soil. It's violent, but it's balance. Vision, none. Driver ants are completely blind, yet their chemical communication is so precise it outperforms sight. Their armor is also minimal, but sheer numbers make up for it. When one ant dies, 10 more take its place. They are mild. Their real weapon lies in numbers and coordination, not toxicity. Their constant movement prevents parasites, competitors, and predators from catching up. It's this combination, blind coordination, relentless teamwork, and swarm-level intelligence, that makes them one of the deadliest forces in nature. While the African jungle trembles before driver ants, another killer scares everything in the Amazon. Number 5. Bullet ant, the sting that brings fire. Deep in the rainforests of South America, beneath the dripping leaves of the Amazon canopy, lives an ant so infamous that even scientists wince at its name. Meet Paraponera clavata, the bullet ant, nature's cruel reminder that size isn't everything. On the Schmidt Pain Index, which ranks insect stings from 1 to 4, the bullet ant stands proudly, or rather menacingly, at the top. Level 4. The same tier as the tarantula hawk wasp. For comparison, a honeybee scores a 2. The bullet ant? It's like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. That's not a poetic exaggeration. That's Dr. Justin Schmidt's actual quote. He got stung so many times in the name of science that he won an Ig Nobel Prize for it in 2015. Imagine pain so intense it hijacks your nervous system, your vision swims, and for the next 24 hours, your body becomes a bonfire. That's why locals call it hormiga bala, the bullet ant, because its sting feels like being shot. These ants aren't just painful, they look like they mean business. At around 2.5 centimeters long, the bullet ant is one of the largest ants on the planet, big enough that you can hear it moving through leaves. Its body is sleek, armored in a dark reddish-black shell, with huge mandibles and a stinger that's about 3.5 millimeters long, the length of a fingernail and just as sharp. Its Latin name, clavata, means club-shaped, referring to its thick muscular body. Even its stance looks like it's ready to throw hands. The queen, unusually, is only slightly larger than her workers. No royal pampering here. Every ant in the colony is built for battle. Unlike many ants that bite and then sting, the bullet ant skips the foreplay. It goes straight for the sting. Its venom is a neurotoxic cocktail packed with a peptide called ponerotoxin. This chemical overloads the nervous system, causing paralysis, tremors, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. Scientists studying the venom discovered that it interferes with voltage-gated sodium channels in the nerves. In other words, it makes your pain signals impossible to shut off. That's why it burns for up to 24 hours. It's also why some researchers study it for potential medical uses in pain management and muscle control. These tiny torture devices are often nesting at the base of large trees, with relatively small colonies, about 700 to 1,000 ants. But size doesn't matter when you have the world's most feared sting. Their homes are fortresses, dug deep into the soil and fiercely defended. Wander too close, and you'll find yourself swarmed in seconds. Bullet ants are also efficient hunters. Though they prefer nectar and fruit juice, a surprisingly wholesome diet for such a menace, they'll take down insects, spiders, and even scavenge on small carcasses when the opportunity arises. They're also surprisingly organized for something that looks like it lives for chaos. Their foraging system uses a bucket brigade. Instead of each ant trekking back to the nest, they pass droplets of nectar from one ant to the next like a living conveyor belt. Beyond their horrifying sting, bullet ants are a goldmine for research. Their venom's unique compounds may hold the key to new painkillers or neural treatments. Their communication patterns, using vibrations and pheromones, reveal how small-brained creatures can coordinate complex social systems. Even their colonies show fascinating ecological balance. They regulate insect populations, pollinate plants, and aerate soil, proof that nature's monsters often serve a purpose beyond fear. Despite their notoriety, bullet ants rarely attack without reason. They don't hunt humans. They don't chase you down. They're just incredibly good at reminding anyone who threatens their nest that boundaries matter. If the bullet ant fights with teeth, the next one on this list fights with fire. Number 4. Fire ants, the chemical engineers of pain. If hell had engineers, they'd probably look like fire ants. Tiny, reddish, and deceptively ordinary, until you step on their mound. Then suddenly, your foot's on fire, and you've just declared war on one of the most organized military forces in the animal kingdom, the Solenopsis invicta, the red imported fire ant, the global conqueror that's taken over farms, cities, and floodplains from South America to the southern United States, China, and even Australia. Let's get one thing straight. Fire ants don't sting instead of biting. They do both. They bite to hold you still, then pivot their bodies around in a perfect circle, stinging repeatedly as they inject a venom so potent it literally burns. That venom, called solenopsin, is an alkaloid-based toxin that attacks the nervous system and causes necrosis in tissue. The result, an immediate fiery pain followed by raised white pustules that can last for days. Some people even go into anaphylactic shock after a few stings. This is not an ant that bites and runs. Once one attacks, it releases an alarm pheromone, an invisible chemical signal that tells the rest of the colony, "We've got an intruder." Seconds later, the ground seems to boil. Thousands swarm out of the mound like lava erupting from the earth, every one of them ready to sting. Fire ants are masters of chemistry. Every decision they make, from foraging to fighting, is guided by a complex mix of pheromones. When a worker finds food, it leaves behind a scent trail for others to follow. When threatened, soldiers release a defensive pheromone that triggers the entire nest into attack mode, and when they die, their bodies emit a different compound that signals others to carry the dead away, keeping disease out of the colony. It's an invisible world of scent-based communication. Each ant is just a few millimeters long, but together they operate like a living chemical network, constantly adapting, recalibrating, and responding to the environment. You've probably seen their signature mounds, those sandy domes dotting lawns, fields, or roadsides. But what you see above ground is only the tip of the fortress. Below the surface lies an intricate labyrinth, tunnels, brood chambers, and storage cells that can extend a meter deep and house hundreds of thousands of ants. The mounds are built for ventilation, temperature regulation, and flood resistance. And they don't all look the same. In clay soils, the mounds rise tall, up to a meter high. In sandy areas, they're flatter and wider. In urban spaces, they'll happily build under sidewalks, bricks, or even electrical boxes. Native to South America, fire ants have become one of the most invasive species on Earth. They arrived in the United States in the 1930s, likely through the port of Mobile, Alabama, hiding in cargo shipments. Within decades, they spread across the southern United States, devouring crops, disrupting ecosystems, and costing billions in agricultural damage. Their colonies grow fast. A single queen can lay up to 1,500 eggs per day. Some nests even have multiple queens, meaning exponential population growth. Once they take root, they're almost impossible to eradicate. They raid beehives, eat lizard eggs, and outcompete native ants wherever they go. If there's food, warmth, and a little soil, they'll make it home. Here's where things get cinematic. When disaster strikes, say a flood, most insects drown. Fire ants, they build rafts out of themselves. Each ant links its legs and jaws with its neighbors, forming a living, floating island that can carry up to 100,000 individuals. The workers position the queen and larvae safely in the center, while others on the edges constantly adjust to water currents, shifting to keep the raft stable. During Hurricane Harvey in 2017, people in Texas reported massive clumps of fire ants drifting down flooded streets, moving as one. Scientists studying them discovered that these rafts behave like a living material, flexible, buoyant, and self-healing. Poke a hole in one, and the ants rush to fill the gap. Despite their terrifying reputation, fire ants aren't all about destruction. They form mutualistic relationships with certain butterfly larvae, like Lycaena rubidis and Eurybia elvina. The larvae secrete sugary fluids, and in return, fire ants protect them from predators, a twisted little exchange of sugar for security. But don't mistake that for kindness. Fire ants are opportunists. They'll also invade beehives to steal nectar and larvae, turning beneficial insects into lunch. They've even been observed tunneling into orchid bee nests to rob them from below. But in the forests of Southeast Asia, one ant species wages war like no other. Number 3. Weaver ants, architects of war. A war machine from Asia. Is that really surprising? Not at all, but what is surprising is how this army fights, not with bullets or blades, but with teamwork and precision engineering that would make human generals envious. The weaver ant, nature's ultimate architect and tactician. Imagine walking through a tropical forest in Southeast Asia. High above among the leaves you see what looks like tiny green tents woven together. Those aren't just leaves, they're the living fortresses of the weaver ants. Unlike most ants that dig into soil or hide under logs, weaver ants prefer to build in the skies. Using the leaves themselves as walls, they stitch them together with silk. But here's the twist. They don't produce the silk, their larvae do. During construction, adult workers form living chains, pulling leaf edges together with their jaws and legs, like a team of living grappling hooks. Once the leaves are close enough, another worker arrives with a larva and gently squeezes it, drawing silk from its mouth to glue the leaves shut. This results in a smooth, sealed, waterproof nest, all built by hundreds of tiny engineers working in flawless coordination. Some colonies spread across dozens of trees, housing hundreds of thousands of ants. They're connected by branches and pheromone highways, an elevated empire. The older ants guard the edges in outpost nests, serving as the first line of defense if an enemy dares to trespass. Now, don't let their architectural genius fool you. These ants are mean. Weaver ants are among the most aggressive species on Earth. When an intruder, say another insect or a rival ant species, steps foot on their territory, a scout immediately raises the alarm. The message spreads instantly through pheromones, chemical signals that act like nature's Wi-Fi. Within seconds, soldiers swarm to the spot, following invisible trails of scent to join the battle. They might lack stingers, but weaver ants compensate with razor-sharp mandibles and pure ferocity. They bite down hard, and while they're still locked onto your skin or a rival's exoskeleton, They spray formic acid straight into the wound. It burns, it stings, and it leaves predators second-guessing their life choices. A single weaver ant can't do much damage. But when thousands attack together in synchronized chaos, they can overwhelm prey 100 times their size. Insects, lizards, even small birds that stray too close. In large-scale wars between colonies, their tactics look eerily organized. They launch coordinated raids, attack from multiple directions, and even retreat strategically when outnumbered. Behavior that scientists compare to human military strategy. Despite their violent streak, weaver ants aren't just jungle warlords. They're also skilled farmers' allies. For more than 1,700 years, people in Southeast Asia have used them as natural pest control. Long before chemical pesticides existed, citrus and mango farmers encouraged weaver ants to nest in their orchards. The ants patrol the trees, attacking caterpillars, beetles, and any insect that dares threaten the crops. In return, the farmers get cleaner fruit and fewer sleepless nights worrying about infestations. Of course, this partnership has its complications. Weaver ants are territorial. To them, a human farmer reaching for a mango isn't a friend, it's an invader. Their bite can leave your hand burning for hours, which has led some farmers to abandon them despite their eco-friendly efficiency. Still, modern scientists are rediscovering these ants' potential. Their social coordination and building techniques are now inspiring swarm robotics, machines that work together the way ants do, building structures, repairing damage, and even performing rescue missions after disasters. Weaver ants' success lies not just in their aggression or teamwork, but in their adaptability. Their colonies can spread, relocate, and rebuild within days if a nest is destroyed. They control their territories by patrolling the treetops, maintaining strict pheromone boundaries, and attacking any rival species that threaten their resources. Even their social hierarchy is fine-tuned for efficiency. Workers handle everything from foraging to defense to construction, while queens maintain order and reproduction. Each ant knows its role. No confusion, no ego, no downtime, just purpose. But for all their brilliance, none are as ruthless as the species that turns its victims into slaves. Number 2. Slave-making ants, the insect empire builders. Somewhere deep in the undergrowth, in colonies that look perfectly normal from the outside, an empire of manipulation thrives. Silent, ruthless, and disturbingly strategic. These are the slave-making ants, the Polyergus rufescens, better known as the Amazon ants. And they don't just survive nature's chaos, they control it. They don't build, they don't clean, they don't hunt. Instead, they steal and enslave. The slave-making ants have abandoned the honest life of foraging and nest building in favor of a much darker existence. They raid other colonies, kill their queens, and kidnap the young. When those stolen larvae hatch, they grow up believing they belong to the invaders, working, fighting, and dying for a colony that isn't their own. It's not a one-time trick, it's their entire survival strategy. Without their slaves, the Polyergus ants would collapse in days. They've evolved so far into this parasitic lifestyle that they've literally lost the ability to feed themselves or care for their young. A slave-making colony begins with infiltration, not brute force, but psychological warfare. A newly mated queen leaves her birth nest and seeks out a target, another ant colony, often of the Formica species. She approaches stealthily, coated in her own chemical arsenal. Upon entering the host nest, she releases pheromones that mimic the colony's scent, effectively hacking their identity system. To the unsuspecting workers, she smells like one of them. Once inside, she assassinates the real queen and takes her place. Now comes the creepy part. The host workers, still under her chemical spell, begin caring for her as if nothing happened. The colony continues to function, but it's now under foreign control. The queen lays her eggs, the next generation of invaders, and the captured workers raise them obediently. When this mixed colony matures, the cycle of conquest begins anew. When the Polyergus ants need more workers, and they always do, they don't just sit around waiting. They launch raids. Scout ants locate nearby host nests and return to rally the troops. Then, dozens to hundreds of red, sleek-bodied warriors march out in a shimmering, coordinated wave in search of a thriving colony full of larvae and pupae. As they arrive, they release chemicals that disorient their victims. In the chaos, the Polyergus raiders rush in, kill adult defenders, and snatch the pupae. The raid is swift. They don't waste time taking food or territory. Back in their nest, the stolen pupae hatch. The new ants are imprinted with the scent of the Polyergus colony and go on to serve it, feeding their captors, tending to their larvae, and even defending the nest from future attacks. These slaves will help raise the next generation of raiders, who will one day enslave more of their kind. It's a perfect biological loop, one of nature's darkest masterpieces. Not all slave-making ants are as extreme as the Polyergus. There are facultative slave makers, like Formica sanguinea, that can still survive without slaves. They raid mostly to expand their workforce, not out of dependence. They're the opportunists, still capable, just more efficient with free labor. Then there are obligate slave makers, the full-time tyrants. Polyergus ants fall squarely into this camp. They've lost nearly every survival skill except warfare. Without slaves, they starve. Their jaws are built only for battle, not for feeding or nest building. Here's where things get even more fascinating. Not all slaves accept their fate quietly. In some colonies, enslaved ants have been seen rebelling, subtly sabotaging their captors from within. Species like long-spined acorn ants have been observed killing the pupae of their masters, ensuring fewer slave makers grow up to continue the cycle. It's an act of evolutionary defiance, one that doesn't benefit the individual as they'll still die as slaves, but it helps protect future generations of their kind from being enslaved. Even among ants, freedom has a price. This relationship between the slave makers and their hosts is an endless arms race. The Polyergus ants evolve sharper deception tactics, better mimicry, stronger pheromone cloaking, faster raids. In response, their host species develop more refined recognition abilities, smarter nest defenses, and even alarm signals to warn neighboring colonies of an attack. Neither side ever truly wins. Instead, evolution keeps upping the stakes, generation after generation. The result looks like a microcosm of imperialism and resistance, all happening beneath our feet. And then there are those that kill with speed, faster than any predator alive. Number 1. Trapjaw ants, speed killers of the forest floor. Imagine this. You're an unsuspecting insect, minding your own business, strolling through the leaf litter. Then, snap. Before you even realize what happened, your world goes black. You've just met the trapjaw ant, one of nature's most ruthless assassins. Odontomachus boweri, the speed demon of the forest floor, an insect so fast its jaws could put a cheetah to shame. These jaws don't just bite. They explode shut at up to 145 miles per hour, making them the fastest moving body part in the animal kingdom. To put that in perspective, that's faster than a human blink by nearly 2,000 times. But speed is only part of the story. The trapjaw ant's life is a masterclass in precision, a perfect blend of weaponized mechanics, strategy, and survival instinct. The hunting ritual of a trapjaw ant is something straight out of a science fiction thriller. Unlike many ants that hunt in large raiding parties, the trapjaw prefers to go solo, quiet, patient, calculating. First, it locks its spring-loaded mandibles wide open, 180 degrees apart, just like cocking a crossbow. Inside its head, slow but powerful muscles tense, storing elastic energy. Then it waits. Tiny trigger hairs line the inner edge of each mandible. The instant a prey's movement brushes against them, say a termite or a springtail, it's game over. The latch releases and the jaws slam shut in 0.13 milliseconds, striking with over 300 times the ant's own body weight. That's not just fast, it's lethal. The prey is either crushed or stunned, with the final blow coming from a venomous sting. And yes, these ants can sting multiple times. Their unbarbed stinger delivers a paralyzing toxin, ensuring nothing escapes once caught. Now, here's where things get wild. Those same jaws that destroy prey can also save lives. When threatened, a trapjaw ant flips its weapon around, not to attack, but to launch itself through the air. By slamming its jaws against the ground, it catapults itself backward, sometimes up to 8 times its body length in a single explosive leap. High-speed cameras show the move is deliberate. The ant braces, aims its head downward, and boom, launches like a bullet. To predators like antlions or spiders, it's chaos. One moment, a meal seems guaranteed. The next, the air is filled with flying ants ricocheting off leaves like popcorn. When entire groups do this simultaneously, it becomes a dizzying spectacle of motion, a coordinated confusion that gives the trapjaws a huge survival edge. If evolution had a favorite gadget, this jaw mechanism might be it. Here's the twist. Trapjaw mechanisms evolved multiple times in different ant families. That means nature independently invented the same jaw design because it's just that effective. Scientists call this convergent evolution, when different creatures arrive at similar solutions for survival. And in the case of trapjaws, the solution is simple: speed wins. That's also why robotic engineers have studied Odontomachus ants so closely. Their biomechanical efficiency, the way energy is stored, released, and directed, could inspire new robotic limbs, micromechanisms, and even launch systems. The line between biology and engineering blurs, and the trapjaw stands right at that intersection. Every part of this ant's body is built for speed and control. Its elongated head holds those oversized jaws and the powerful muscles that drive them. Its large compound eyes grant superior vision, allowing it to track prey movements with pinpoint accuracy. Even its coloration, a blend of earthy reds, browns, and blacks, helps it stay camouflaged on the forest floor, invisible until the strike. The larvae, meanwhile, are spiky and carnivorous, clinging to nest walls with sticky pads as workers bring in bits of captured prey. They molt 3 times before forming their cocoons, growing sharper, literally, with every stage. And when it comes to teamwork, trapjaw ants know how to make chaos organized. They use pheromone trails to coordinate hunts, warning others or calling in reinforcements. When food is found, the signal spreads fast, turning a single hunt into a well-orchestrated feast. From venom to intelligence, from chaos to compassion, ants remind us that power wears many faces. But in their microscopic wars lies the blueprint of nature itself. They've outlived dinosaurs, but how do these tiny creatures continue to thrive as evolution continues to roll the wheel? What's your take on this? Share your perspective in the comments section. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.